Good evening, Blackhawks fans, and welcome to episode 12 of Blackhawks Banter. My name is Shaun Filippelli, and joining me tonight from our talented Blackhawks writing crew is Greg Boysen, Gail Kauchak, and Brooke LoFurno. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
A plus.
Good. Let's get right into it. To our viewers, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and check out our work over at thehockeywriters.com. All of our author page links can be found in the description below. After witnessing a drastically improved team, you'd think we'd be full of optimism on tonight's show, but then came the news that Alex DeBrincat and Adam Boqvist are both out due to COVID protocol. We obviously wish them well, but that's also bad news for this lineup. Needless to say, let's get right into all the topics for tonight. Speaking of last week, after starting the season with three straight losses, the Blackhawks earned 5 of a possible 6 points. They went 2-0-1 with an overtime loss to the Panthers, followed by 2 straight wins against the Red Wings. When reflecting on Chicago's recent success, do you credit their improved play to changes in their game plan, or was it expected based on who they faced, given that the Red Wings didn't have too much of a season last year, so to speak? Brooke, I'm going to go to you first on this one.
To be honest, I'm very cautiously optimistic. When I watch the Red Wings, I feel like I could have scored. Just like they are so, I thought we were bad. Oh my gosh, they are so bad. It's actually laughable. So to be honest, I mean, they looked better, but I don't know if that was because they were so bad that they just made them look good. So to be honest, I am holding back on trying to be like excited until I can see that they can beat a good team. So, I mean, Nashville's kind of, but it's better than the Red Wings. So I'm honestly going to say I want to wait and see how that goes. Because if they can only beat teams like the Red Wings, then that's annoying. I want to see them actually beat good teams.
Yeah, I agree. This will be an interesting week to put that to the test. Gail, do you think it was strictly because it was the Red Wings, or have the Blackhawks improved that much so far?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. They were able to capitalize on a lesser team, which is a good thing. And it helped them build confidence, and they were able to kind of see this is what we're supposed to do right. This is how we execute, because they were able to do that against a team that really didn't give them as much pushback. So the question remains, will they be able to do this when they are playing a better opponent? And hopefully at least they learned from this and they kind of got in the groove of, okay, well, this is what we're supposed to do. This is how it's supposed to work. Now let's do it against better teams and execute what we've learned.
Yeah, so consensus still being that the opponent had something to do with it. Greg, are you going to give the Hawks all the credit here, or is it basically because of the Red Wings?
Oh, I mean, yeah, you're playing the Red Wings. We know, I mean, they're coming off an historically bad season. They had 5 players on their COVID list, missing, important guys too. Robbie Fabry, Zadina was out, a couple others, key guys. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But you also have to remember, yeah, they won 2 games and they had elements that looked improved, but they still won those games because Kevin Lankinen made some huge saves. They've still given up a lot of dangerous scoring chances. So you take the wins. Hopefully you get some confidence with a young team. Confidence goes a long way. You just want to see some progression. That's all you care about in this season, really. I mean, sure, fans want wins, but the key is, as I said about the goaltending race, it's not who's starting to begin the season, it's who's starting at the end of the season. So you want to see progression. We saw a little bit of progression this week, and that's all. Week to week, if things get a little bit better in certain areas, then regardless, wins or loss, it's a good week.
Yeah, it's a good segue. I mean, that's kind of where I stand too. To me, I think it was a combination, as you've all sort of touched on. I think it was good timing of who they were playing and when they were playing them, because we saw this team start to click a little bit better, as Gail sort of alluded to. And you add that to the fact that Lankinen was on top of his game, and everything was just going well. And, for it to be going well when there's a team that they're facing in the Red Wings, it's a good recipe for them to have seen the success that they did. Could we have expected that to come of them? I don't think so, given what we saw in that first week. So I would say I was pleasantly surprised to see how well they put it together, but I think it's obviously still fairly early, and we do have to pay close attention to who they were facing and how things are progressing. So I'll agree that, it's a combination of things, but nice to see that things are going the right way.
Something to build on.
Totally. And if that's what they're doing, like Greg said, if they're building, then that's what we need to see this year, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that was nice to see. It was a much different team to watch. And speaking of what made them much different, we'll go to a segment that I'll call Hawks Props, where we're going to look back, and alongside winning comes a greater showcasing of the skill that helped make that possible for this team. So, as this team is starting to see their youth break out, they're obviously better because of it, like we've just touched on. With no shortage of first-year Hawks throughout their lineup who are already becoming go-to performers for this team, which rookie stood out to you last week? Gail, I'm going to start with you.
All right. Well, the obvious answer here would be Pia Suter, the hat trick. And that would be a great answer. And I think that, that's definitely somebody to talk about. But I have to give props to Kevin Lankinen. I'm just really, really impressed with how he took on those 3 games and his confidence. And he, I don't think that they had him. I think they had him penciled in as Rockford, and he's making that decision really tough for them. So kudos to him. And I'm sorry, I know everybody else has to say things too, but I have to put in just a little mention here for Ian Mitchell, because I think that Mitchell is, he's got all the tools, and you see the talent there. And he got his first assist, I think. So.
Mitchell's a likable kid. I watch him, and I just like him. So I hope he can continue with that and start to perform a little bit more. So
I just watched an interview before the show here, and I'm not kidding you. I'm watching it at the very end. He said, "Oh yeah, that was paramount for me." Like, who says paramount? What hockey player says that? I mean, he must be smart too, right?
No, he's a likable kid. Greg, you sticking on Lankinen here, or you going somewhere else?
Obviously you got to give some love to Lankinen. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I do remember me saying that he was the best fundamentally of the 3 heading in the training camp. He was the best goaltender they had in Rockford last year before he got hurt. He was an AHL All-Star. He's the best right now goaltender. The key for him is going to be now that there's a book out on him, a short book, but it's still a book. Yes. People are going to pick him apart and find out where his weakness is. So he's going to have to readjust, and how quickly he can make that readjustment is going to be key. Let's not put him in the Hall of Fame just yet, but I'm happy for him because he's a good guy too. I got to talk to him a few times in Rockford. He's just, when you get a chance, Google the story with him and the children's book and the reading in Finland. It's just he's a good kid, and I'm happy for him. He's got the best rebound control of the 3 goalies we've seen so far, and he doesn't end up at the faceoff dots half the game like somebody else that's played a couple games too. So that's important. Stay in the blue paint, all you young goalies out there. So yeah, I'll give him the props, and I want to give a little shout out to Ian Mitchell too. He's been very impressive. Very calm and just looks like he doesn't get flustered. Doesn't look like he's lost in the moment. Wish we could say the same about Adam Boquist, who has been in over his head a bit since he's been up here. Not giving up on him by any means, but Mitchell's been as good as advertised. And I always worry about those college guys that stay there for an extra year or two, if they're really the goods or not. But he's been as good as advertised. Only thing about Mitchell, and it's not about him, is why wasn't he playing in 3-on-3 overtime or the last 8 minutes of that Florida game? Get these kids out there in those situations. All right, I won't get it down that road.
It's only the 6th game. They just simmer down.
Let him play. Get him in there. I agree.
When out, if not now, when? I think Connor Murphy's a really good defenseman. Not on 3-on-3 overtime. Get a kid that can skate with that space and use it to your ability.
Yep.
Put these guys in positions to succeed. That's all I ask.
And grow at the very least. Brooke, you going off the board, or are you sticking with the consensus here?
I am sticking with the consensus, and I will say really quickly before I say another thing that I do agree about Colleton. His overtime decisions, even last year, it's not very. It's confusing, but
yeah, David Camp should never play in overtime, let alone start an overtime series. I don't know if the concussions are bothering him again or what's going on behind the bench, but he needs to have his assistants grab him and go, "Hey, not now."
Yeah, I agree. But that's probably a new show for another day, is questioning his overtime decisions. But I'm going to say, to go maybe a little off or a little different, I'm going to say Hagel, because the game I saw out of him yesterday, I was super impressed. He was the one guy I noticed a lot, and I was like, I really like what this guy can bring. You can see he's extremely competitive. He skates really well. He's super fast. I'm like, if he can start to put that together and produce, we might have a really good prospect there. And I think I said this before, but he does remind me a lot of Kajula in a lot of ways, kind of just that super competitive, kind of feistier player. And we kind of all love those types of players here in Chicago. So I'm going to say Hagel. I was really impressed with what I saw, and hopefully he can continue to put it together. And Ian Mitchell, of course, too. And Lankinen, I'm super happy for him that he was the goalie that didn't give up 5+ goals. That's very welcoming, and I'm proud of him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Hagel looks like he's got all the tools there. I wish it was clicking a little bit better so he could get a little more spotlight. But he looks good, and I think once it starts to click for him, it'll start to pan out. I'm gonna make it a full sweep here. I know we've had some additional players that you've all thrown in, but I have to stick with Lankinen. Obviously, all bias aside here, being a goalie myself, but. As much as we, harp on Colton, I'll at least give him a little bit of credit where he's due, I guess. It was his choice to get Lankin into these games, to my knowledge. So kudos to him for making that happen and sticking with the goalie that was getting it done. He bounced back from a tough overtime loss where he did let in 5. So who knows what could have happened next? But he came back, and through his past 2 starts, he got 2 wins out of there. Stopped 55 of 58 for a .948 save percentage and a 1.50 goals against. His record improves now to 2-0-1, and he's contributed to all of the points of the Blackhawks have currently earned. I know it's early in the season, but that's quite a record to have at this point, being that he's been the only goalie in net to gain anything. So it's an early showcase of talent, and he's positioned himself to certainly earn a larger workload and getting a greater spotlight moving forward. So I think we can all collectively agree that Lankinen was the star of the week and deserves our Hawks props. Speaking of goalies, I want to talk a little bit about the one that you think is shining the brightest, although we've all just given props to Lankinen. We've now seen Delia, Subban, and Lankin all get into the starters crease early on this season, and Lankinen is the sole netminder to help them earn any points thus far, as I've just noted. If you were tasked with choosing the undisputed starter the rest of the way, what type of a performance would it take for one to earn that role? Greg, what do you think?
As far as what I want to see out of the undisputed starting goaltender, even though I don't think that's going to be possible this year, is you just want to see good fundamentals. You want to see a guy that's got his head in the game. Bad goals are going to happen. Playing behind this defense, Subban kind of got the short end of the stick with that first start. He gave up 5 goals. He had no help on any of those. They were just. So I would like to see a little more out of him. You could say the same for Delia for a lot of his goals, not a lot of help. Lankinen is the calmest in the crease, and that's something I want to see. I want to see a guy that's calm. I want to see a guy that's quick side to side, good rebound control, and just smart and doesn't get flustered. You can kind of see some of those goals against Delia. He was kind of, you could just tell by his body language that he wasn't happy, especially, that first one he gave up where he fell down trying to leave. Don't leave the blue paint, Colin, stay there. You could see he was kind of getting frustrated. Where Lankinen just kind of, it is what it is. He makes his saves. That's kind of reminds me a lot of Corey Crawford when he was here. He never seemed to let the bad goals get to him. So I want to see that presence in the net, that calming presence and good fundamentals. You get that, you're my starting goaltender, and bad goals are bad goals. They happen.
Yeah, well said. Brooke, what's it going to take for a goalie to earn your starter's crease?
Yeah, I agree with Greg. And I think it's all about just who is going to make the least mistakes. Like, I don't like mistakes, like the kind of like mental mistakes, like the falling down and I understand that bad goals are going to happen, but if that happens on a continuous basis, then it's like, okay, maybe something's up. So I would just say whoever gives you the least mistakes in net and stick with that. And obviously it was Lincoln, and he was pretty solid, and he didn't really make a lot of mistakes that led to the back of the net. So that would just be keep it that simple. Least mistakes, you have my trust, continue.
Yeah, simply stated. Gail, is it all about consistency or results for you?
Well, I just think that it's a little bit too small of a sample size right now to be making these kind of decisions. I think we can all agree that Lankinen looks the best so far, but that's not really fair to Subban or Delia. Like Greg said, Subban just got the 1 game, Delia got 2. Lankinen's had 3, and Lankinen also played against the Detroit Red Wings, whereas the other 2 played against Tampa Bay Lightning. So I really feel like it's just too soon to make that decision, and they should just continue with the rotation, which is going to disappoint some people when, you know, they're, oh, wait, you're not playing Lankinen? Well, you got to see what you got with all 3 of them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of echo what you just said there, Gail, and sort of pick apart some of what you all added there. To me, I agree. I mean, obviously, Lankinen had an impressive week. There's no doubt. We all saw that. We all know that. But, you know, I think it's clearly far too early to be calling one of these guys the undisputed starter. But the kind of effort that I want to see, I think, is going to be best exemplified by these guys all getting a turn. I want to see them all competing against each other, and ultimately I want to see the franchise make them compete against each other. I want them to have to earn their spot, and that's what it's going to take for us to see the best out of these goalies. So they have an opportunity to sort of play around with this lineup, get people in and out. And Brooke, like you said, people might not like it, but at the same time, we have to see what we have. So let them all have a turn, let them all rotate in and out so we can see what they are capable of. Like Greg said, how calm they can be. We're only going to know that if we give them enough of a sample size to feel that out. So for me, I'm going to keep it simple. For my undisputed starter, you win and you're in. It's as simple as that. If you are just joining us, welcome to Blackhawks Banter, and thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and follow us across social to stay up to date on all things Blackhawks. You can find our links in the description of the video below. Taking things a little bit to a negative note here, unfortunately. We knew that something negative would have to come up talking about this team this year, but I want to talk a little bit about injuries and go back to that topic, unfortunately.
We're so positive. We were on a good roll there.
We were, but listen, this is what's to be expected, so let's just get right into it. Knowing the Blackhawks were anticipating a tough year, having some key players sidelined doesn't make things easy for them. Despite a successful week, struggles are still to be expected along the way. If you could infuse the attributes of Toews, Dach, or Seabrook into this lineup to address what is currently lacking, whose talents would have the greatest impact? Brooke?
Toews. I feel like I really took him for, I mean, I've always loved him and thought he was an important player, but with being without him for this amount of time, you do realize the impact that we are missing. And not saying that we don't miss Kirby, because we definitely do. I would take him right back in a heartbeat. But Toews especially, just his playmaking abilities, his defensive abilities, his mentorship, the whole thing down the whole lineup is what this team really misses. And it's so like lopsided now without him in there, and it just seems so unbalanced and just takes away everything the team needs. So I would say we're really missing Toews right now, but we're really missing Kirby too, but Toews especially.
Yeah. Gail, you sticking with the captain?
Yeah, definitely. Toews is my answer. And just to kind of piggyback on what Brooke said, I think that it would be incredibly beneficial for Kirby Dach, and his personal development if he was there. But if you're asking, you know, the impact to the team, it's definitely Toews, and, you know, all the intangibles plus all of his tangibles that he offers.
Yeah. Greg, captain or otherwise?
If I can get 2013 Brent Seabrook back, I'd take him, because that's where they need the most, but that's not happening. Yeah, you gotta, anytime you miss your captain, especially under mysterious circumstances, it's not like, you know, he's got a bum knee or something. Nobody kind of knows what's going on, and that just compounds his absence. You know, him not even being there for the player introductions on opening night, just kind of like, it kind of hits you like, this isn't good. You know, I'm not going to speculate, and I'm not going to try and cause a panic, but the fact that he can't even show up and wear a mask and wave to the empty seats like everybody else did, you know, it's cause for concern. This team is a young team, and you miss your captain, you miss a guy that's been through the wars, a guy that's literally pretty much done everything you could possibly do in the game of hockey, from the NHL to the international level. He's done it all. He's seen it all. Nothing's going to surprise him. And you need that kind of, you know, Seabrook's got that leadership. Everybody raves about his leadership in the locker room. Toews has it too, but the biggest difference is Toews has still been very productive the last couple of years. So he's got the leadership and the production on the ice, and you're missing both of those right now. Dach, you know, Dach is the most disappointing, I think, out of the three, because I think most Blackhawks fans, myself included, were looking forward to seeing a year of progression and seeing what he can do especially after the difference between the regular season and the bubble playoff versions of the two. But as far as what the team needs, it's that they need their captain. They need Taves out there. Any team that has Jonathan Taves as their captain needs him.
Yeah, I agree. That was tough not seeing Taves there for the opening ceremonies. I mean, I think we all echo your sentiment there that we clearly wish him well and hope whatever he's going through, he overcomes, and he does that soon. Clearly, as we continue to say on the show, health comes before hockey, so hopefully Taves is okay. With that said, I'll go off the board a little bit here. You've all sort of touched on Doc, and I'm gonna actually choose Doc for this. And it's not to undermine what Taves brings to the table. Clearly, Greg, you just said it. He's been productive. He's clearly, as we've all said, he's their undisputed leader. I will absolutely echo that. And he's one of my favorite captains in the game, and he has been for years. I just think that where this team is and what they're trying to accomplish as they move forward in terms of giving their youth a chance, and they want to develop and they want to build further cohesion, I think they're missing Doc's presence in that building as the main ingredient towards that recipe. So his impact, I mean, we won't really know what it could have been this year because he's not there. But Greg, as you just said, and I'll allude back to that, we saw his progression as he entered the postseason, and we were all looking forward to seeing what other gear he could get to. And I think that they're missing that added gear. His youthful energy, his obvious improvement in play, I think is really missing from this squad. They looked lost to start the season. And I think having had that kind of youth that already had the experience that Doc has already gained was vital. So I think they're really missing that. As much as we know they're missing their leader, I think that's a big setback for their development, because it would have been a big year for him to be part of that mix and see what they could do further with him there.
Next week, we'll probably be like, oh, dang, we really missed DeBrincat and Boqvist.
Yeah.
That's what the team is missing.
That's right. They'll be the next two that we compare. Absolutely. Speaking of comparisons, we'll go to another segment that we teased our audience here with, which I called Would You Rather? So when it seems success is a more distant dream for a respective franchise, an age-old debate sparks amongst its fan base. While some want to witness their team work to win at all times, others are ready to rationalize how less success in the present could be the answer for a better future. Given the current outlook in Chicago, would you rather the Blackhawks do whatever they can, including blockbuster trades to get competitive now, lose as much as possible, hoping to guarantee a higher draft pick, or sneak into the playoffs, but get knocked out in Game 7 of the first round? And Gail, we all saw your tweet earlier, so I'll let you start this one off. Go ahead.
All right. Well, obviously, if you read the preview, we all know that everybody here, except for myself, chose to lose. And what's wrong with you people? What's wrong with you? Are you really ready to like walk the talk here? I mean, you all were so excited that the Blackhawks just beat Detroit 2 games, but yet you're saying that they should lose.
Too many wins already.
What's that?
Positive Gail is back, guys. Woohoo!
Two wins too many already on the season.
Okay, so here's our choices, right? Okay. Let me just get to my answer here. Making blockbuster trades to get competitive kind of defeats the purpose of the youth. All right. Plus, if you did make blockbuster trades, you would lose some of your youth. You would lose good players, prospects, picks. Stay the course. Don't go that route. We already know that this is kind of one of those wacky seasons anyway. You're without a lot of your key players, right? But I just never, ever been a fan of tanking. I don't understand why people would want to lose. First off, coaches don't tank, players don't tank, and it's not good for the culture of a hockey team to just lose all the time. So I can't make that. I can't make that choice. So and you did not give an option of, okay, play as good as you possibly can, and you're not going to make the playoffs, because it's probably what's going to happen. They're not good enough to make the playoffs, and there is going to be a lot of losses here. But darn it, I want to see them win as much as possible and build and grow and work on that winning culture. So I'm angry with all three of you.
On that note, Greg, we know where you stand. So 2 wins is already too many. So how many more do you want them to get throughout the year?
0. No, I'm joking. Listen, no team is going to actively try and lose. I've been around enough hockey locker rooms. No team, no coaches are ever going to say, especially guys like, Ryan Carpenter and Lucas Wallmark and Matthias Janmark. These guys don't give a crap what happens with the Blackhawks in 3 years, because they're probably not going to be here. They're playing for their next contract. So you're never going to have a team that goes out there and goes, hey boys, let's not score tonight. That's never going to happen. But when I said lose, it doesn't mean actively lose. It just means let's not get crazy. Like this team says they're rebuilding. So you're not going to trade away. You're not in the position to trade away assets. What should happen this season as it progresses, you need to start looking at dumping off some of these veterans and getting more draft picks, more prospects, guys like Calvin DeHaan, guys like Connor Murphy, and Andrew Shaw, a Ryan Carpenter. These guys are worth something on the trade market, especially at the deadline. So that should be the plan. Look for homes, get some more. And because of that, you're going to play younger talent, inexperienced talent. You're probably going to lose more, and that's okay. My philosophy is just embrace the suck. Embrace it. It's okay to lose. You don't have to root for losing. You don't have to get mad when they win. But when they lose, in big picture terms, it's okay, because being bad for 2 or 3 years to open up a new championship window is much better than trying your hardest and getting in the first round of the playoffs just to lose again. And then we're starting this whole thing over again next season. It doesn't get you anywhere. Embrace the suck. That's all I'm saying.
And Brooke, what are you going to say to piss off Gail?
Okay, yeah, I agree with what Greg said. It's not really about, I'm not rooting for them to purposely tank, but out of the 3 choices, I would say lose, only because, like I said, we know it's coming, so it's more like just, yeah, like Greg said, just embrace it, because we don't want to extend our misery. We want to get it done as fast as possible. Like, we don't want to be in any more pain. So, and to be honest, when I was reading the options, I wish I could have combined a couple of them. Like, I wouldn't say trade to get competitive now. I would say I wouldn't mind trading for the future if we got some good. I don't know if I trust Stan Bowman to do that correctly, though. That's my issue. But I wouldn't mind if we got some good draft picks or maybe some good prospects, like you said, for Connor Murphy or Shaw or anyone who could give you a good return. I wouldn't mind that, but I would say we're just not good enough. And honestly, I feel like my heart would break more if we made the playoffs only to inevitably lose. And then that would just be like, okay, that was a waste. I mean, we kind of got in to the playoffs last year on a whim, and even though we wouldn't have in the big scope of things. So I honestly just want to get this done as fast as possible. And however we can do that, do it, whether it's trades, but not to get competitive now. Just like Greg said, embrace the suck, but let's hope it doesn't stay sucky forever. Let's just not extend it. Let's just try to get this over with, whether it's trades, whether it's losing. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, as Gail alluded to, this was 3 versus 1 as far as how we answered. So let's see if I can help the collective effort here of calming her nerves, because I do want to say that I'm certainly also not one to ever get behind a plan to tank. I actually stumped myself with my own question for the options here, because I did have one that was sort of probably going to be what we all would have picked anyway, which was kind of a, play okay, win a couple games, but still, be able to develop. And I just thought that's not going to create as much conversation as this is. So, I said that they should lose as much as possible, but again, not because I want to see them purposefully put up a white flag. I don't want to see them stop battling or stop getting out there and fighting and doing what we love of this franchise. Just because of the 3 choices, it makes the most sense for their future growth, as you've all sort of touched on here. They trade away assets to be competitive now. It's going to stunt their growth. If they sneak into the playoffs, they're no further ahead come next year or in the coming years. Ultimately, I never want to see them enter a game and not fight. Greg said it best at the beginning. The reality is that losing is going to help them. Doesn't mean we want them to lose. I just think of these options and how I crafted this question, Gail, that losing will be what's best for them, for us to all be optimistic moving forward.
Well,
so
and I
personally,
think
I won't be as mad if they lose as much as they can this year, because it'll make sense for us to be all be more optimistic next year. How's that, Gail?
Okay. Well, and I think the one thing also that I didn't like about that lose, because you said lose to guarantee a higher draft pick, which I forgot to mention also. That's not guaranteed.
Well, I didn't say guarantee a first overall. It does guarantee them a higher draft pick, but who knows which one that would be. I agree with you.
I think for my advice for Blackhawk fans to make it through this season with the least amount of sanity possible is you got to deprogram yourself to not worry about the team result at the end of the night or at the end of the season. You need to just, as I said earlier, it's all about progression this season. You need to identify the guys you want to have on your team when you're actually contending again, and you want to see those guys take the next step. If you win some games, great. It's never a bad thing for young players to get used to winning. But if those players are progressing well and they're taking the next step individually, but the team is losing, it's not the end of the world. So deprogram yourself about the results on the scoreboard and just look for the little things that give you hope for the future.
Yeah, and speaking of progress, let's take a look at their week ahead. The Blackhawks have 4 games coming up this week. They're playing in Nashville on the 26th and 27th, and they're back home to host the Blue Jackets on the 29th and 31st. Let's end the show with some rapid-fire predictions. I'm going to go around the table here after each question. I just want an answer. I don't want an explanation. Of the 8 points up for grabs, the Hawks will earn blank. Greg?
3.
Brooke?
4.
Gail?
I was going to say 5, but I changed it to 3 based on recent events. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say that much.
I'm going to stick with 5. That's what I had, and I'll stick with it.
I suck at these. I'm always wrong, so I really don't like it.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out as the week progresses.
We'll have an update next week.
Pia Suter will score blank goals throughout these 4 games. Greg?
3.
Brooke?
3.
Yeah.
2.
I'm going with 4. So far, I'm the most optimistic. Let's see how we can end this. The goalie to get the most starts this week will be blank. Greg?
3. Oh, sorry. Different. Lankinen. I mean, come on. He's the hot hand. We know he's going to start at least one of those Nashville games, and then he'll probably get a. Sorry, I'm running my mouth again. Lankinen.
Yeah, Lankinen.
Yeah.
I'm saying Delia.
You know what? I'm going to say Delia as well, because I think he'll get in, and I think we're going to start to see more of a rotation.
Yeah.
And on that note, that does it for another episode of Blackhawks Banter. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow along so you never miss a thing. Shout out to Greg, Brooke, and Gail. Thank you for being here. And be sure to check out all of our work for the Hockey Writers and connect with each of us on Twitter too. Good night, folks.